known as the Arsonist, a speaker, best-selling author, and the founder of Unleashing Influence, specializes in future-proofing, try and say that 5 times, future-proofing personal brands in this age of AI. So what a useful topic for us. She knows what it feels like to lose the work that defines you. And I think for all of us who've gone through a couple of career changes or have seen all of this new technology, we all feel the pressure. Some of us have been through it. Some of us have been through it for the first time now. And it's always nice having a helping and guiding hand. Now, unlike her certificate in IV sedation, she will definitely not put us to sleep in this interview, I hope. So, Angela, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I will try and keep you awake. Don't worry.
I thought, how can I fit in a dental joke in here somewhere? But anyway.
We usually talk about drilling things into people's brains, but you did a new one, so good job.
We don't want to scare listeners away who are scared of going to the dentist. And here in Norway, they actually, when you go to the dentist, you have the option of asking for an additional half an hour counseling if you're scared about going to the dentist. So they give that as an option. So we're so lovely here in Norway. So definitely something maybe people should look at in the States and Canada. Now, I like this topic idea, the identity architecture revolution, building a personal brand that's impossible to replace in the AI economy. Maybe let's start with what's going on. For those who perhaps have been living under a rock and don't know how much AI is impacting our lives, let's maybe talk about some of the feedback and the reasoning you had for starting this particular program to help people who feel under great stress and great pressure with AI potentially eating their lunch.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. It is eating people's lunch. And what's happening, I work with a lot of coaches and consultants as well as other professionals, but what they're seeing is this massive drop in sales. There's less trust in their brand. There's more false prophets out there who are using templates to build their brand, but they don't actually have the experience and expertise behind them. So it's harder to compete in the marketplace. And now we've got people having easy access to these LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude. And so people are going and looking at these AI platforms and going, oh, well, it can give me all the answers. I don't need you. And what's happening is, for now, yes, a lot of people can go to those platforms and get answers, but there's a volume of information that's coming at them that they may be spending an hour or 2 hours on it. And then by the time they've got all this information, they don't even really know what to do with it. So that's where your expertise comes in. And what I've been talking about a lot lately is you need to create the filter for that information so that people still find you useful, because your experience and your expertise and your passion for what you've been doing still makes you irreplaceable. You can be leveraging AI. Like, I've built a couple of products that have replaced a lot of me in my company and my processes. But then there's still that handholding that some people will want to have that discernment with the information that's coming out so that they can actually move themselves forward and not spend hours glued to the LLM platforms trying to figure out, okay, that's a great idea. Now you ask another question and it gives you a whole bunch of other things that you could possibly do. And it becomes very complicated.
It sounds like the area of opportunity is for not teenagers and not people who've just graduated in AI. This sounds like, and this might sound counterintuitive, people, slightly older people might think that AI is just, I'm finished now. All of these youngsters are going to be wonderful at computers. They play Roblox, they play Minecraft, they can do all of these interesting things. Where is the advantage for people who are, seasoned professionals to do this process? Why do you think they might have an advantage, and why should they, and we'll talk about your program now, but why should they start reconfiguring how they think about their personal brand?
So they need to start looking at AI as not a threat, but as a leverage point. And because they have those years of training, their brain has changed, right? Someone who just goes in and starts playing with the machine, they don't have that level of discernment that someone with decades of experience does about the information that's coming out. And so when they can be adding that level of discernment along with AI, so not thinking of AI as the enemy, but AI as that leverage point, and putting that into their personal brand so that they can actually time collapse the results for people, because now it's not just all this manual labor. They're actually leveraging the tool, creating that discernment, time collapsing for people. That's where they're really going to start to win. And that's what needs to be coming out again in their personal brand is showing what is the filter that they have, their niche of genius, that is the added layer to the AI that people are using, so that we're not using misinformation from AI. We're not having so much volume of information that we don't even know where to start, so we give up on it. There's so much that they can bring to the table because of the years of experience that they have with knowledge. Now the knowledge is just coming out so much faster, but they can still be that filtration of discernment for people.
When you're talking about that discernment and filtering, and there's a term I like that I saw on your website as well that I've seen before, which is become a category of one. And this is where that idea of niche of mastery comes in. So maybe talk, or niche of genius, maybe talk to me, expand on that a little bit. What does that mean, and how can you find that? Because a lot of folks probably just want to do everything. And I think what you try and do is make them focus in on, especially now in this AI age where you can get everything, being that filter is so important.
Right. And what happens when people have decades of experience is they have a whole really deep toolkit that they can bring to the table. And what they try to do is showcase all the tools in their kit. And when you do that, people go, I don't really get how that one fits with that one and that one and that one, right? And so what we look at with Niche of Genius is, what are the parts of your experience, your expertise, and your passion that make you unique in the marketplace? And what the Niche of Genius does is it allows you to create one door that people can walk through. So they're not trying to figure out how all these different pieces fit together. They go, oh, that's what you're about. Oh, you're the person who can help me. And then they do want to walk through that door with you. So it's a packaging, it's marketing. So it's teaching people how to actually package themselves in a way that is concise, in a concise statement of what they're actually doing, instead of, I'm sure you've been on webinars where they're like, hey, tell everyone what you do. And people will blab on for 2 minutes. And then you have someone like me who's like, I do this. And it's one sentence. And they're like, do you want to say anything else? I'm like, no, because that's what you're going to remember, right? It's not the blabbing for 2 minutes. It's the concise statement that showcases, okay, this is who I am. And then if they want to ask more about it, then they can. So it creates that curiosity point as well, because we're used to people blabbing instead of getting right to the point of what they're doing.
It's quite difficult getting to that one sentence. If only there was a process one could use to find that. You've got a an app which people can go to, where they can get to focusing on what their niche of genius is, basically. Can you talk to us about the app? How it works, how it came about, and some of the successes maybe you've had of folks who've gone through the program.
Sure. So how it came about was I used to build out strategy guides for professionals who had come to me who want to build out their personal brand. So between interviewing them and building out the guide, it took me about 12 hours. And then I did an AI mastery program last year because I'm like, this AI thing, I really need to get a handle on this because it's changing very fast and I want to understand it. And what came out of that was I realized what I was doing, that people were like, oh, you have this magical brain that like puts together my brand. I'm like, well, it's actually patterns in my brain. So I slowed down how I was thinking about things. I'd go back and review the interview process and be like, okay, that's how I made that decision on this part of the strategy. And I taught the machine how to do that. And so now what the machine does is you go in, it does a quiz at the beginning to figure out what your archetype is. So you get a combination of 4 to 6 because no one is just one thing. So it gives you all the different dimensions. Then it interviews you on past, present, and future. And what it does is it asks you a bunch of questions and it pokes at your history from a whole bunch of different angles. And you just talk to the machine, you just answer the questions and you talk to it. So you don't have to know where you're going. You just have to be honest about where you've been, what you're doing right now, and where you think you might want to go. And then what it does is I taught it to pull the patterns together of how I was doing it before. It pulls it together into this 60-page strategy guide that has education as well as pinpointed exactly what you need to be doing. And so it lays out your archetypes, how to use those. It gives you your tone of voice, so you have something to measure your content against and how you're showing up on calls to create that congruency in everything that you're doing. It gives you your niche of genius, which is the hardest thing for people to figure out. And once they read it, everyone goes, oh, yeah, that is what I am. But I would never have never put it together that way. And so then it gives them, their titles for LinkedIn. So when you're trying to write your profile, it gives you what you should be putting for your profile title. It gives you your buyer avatars and how they're thinking, not just like the demographics, but their psychographics behind where they're at, why they're buying, why they're not buying. It also gives you 3 different about sections. So instead of creating a resume, which is what most people do on their about section, it actually takes you on a psychologically programmed story, which is your story, but it's pulling out the bits that are going to make people go, ugh, that's what I'm experiencing. Oh, I need to do something about that. So it actually provokes action. And then it also gives you your full-on sales navigator strategy. So it'll show you how to actually set up all the parameters. And it also gives you your niche of genius hashtags so that you can start being recognized by the LinkedIn algorithm for the genius that you are in your market.
Now, this takes a couple of hours, obviously, for the person to do this. And this foundation of understanding your what is it? Sorry, your niche of genius really filters down into everything else that you're going to do in building your personal brand. And I noticed on your website that all of your programs filter in nicely to each other. And what I found with a lot of workshops and a lot of webinars is that you go into it and you don't actually, you take the first half an hour just to figure out the language, figure out who are the people, what is the theme, and then you maybe get into it, and then you go at the end of it, oh man, I wish I'd learned a little bit more about this before I did this particular course. And what it looks like when I have a look at your events and your seminars is that each of them sort of filter into it nicely. So your personal branding playbook goes into the content machine, goes into a whole bunch of other activities, the Prove It Lab. And it makes so much sense to me, because unless you know what you're about, what your personality is, personality type, and who your target market is, actually going and doing the work is going to be very difficult. Or doing new courses that actually tie into what you've done the hard work on already. It makes a lot of sense to me. You do, obviously, there's the app, you've got your live events, and you've got your live programs. Let's talk to you from a slight entrepreneurial perspective now.
Okay.
You obviously don't have 100 people working behind you. How do you manage your time? Have you done your niche mastery program yourself as well?
Yes. Anything that I put out into the market, I've put myself through. And once I figure out a process for myself, then I'm like, other people actually need this as well. So then I built programs around that. So yeah, for putting everything out there, what I just realized was things need to be in a certain order, as you've noticed on the website. And once we go into that deep dive, and like I've built other companies as well. So I have my professional dance company is coming back up and running. I have a Kundalini activation company. So I actually went back through the playbook for each of those. And here's the annoying thing is when I read the playbook, I was like, oh, this is so good. This is so much better than what I would have written for myself, because we keep iterating the machine as well. So it gets better and better. But it was so on point, and it brought in verbiage that made more sense than how I'd been describing things before. And this is what happens with clients as well. So I love when I go back through it as well, because it makes me just realize how much better this thing is getting every time we run it for people. And it is making a big difference for getting that clarity in the marketplace, no matter what your marketplace is and what your industry is.
It's amazing having that sort of second voice. Actually, it is you, so it's all your inputs, and it's just adding additional granularity and additional ideas. I love it. So I think that's a fantastic idea. Now, consumer psychology obviously plays a big role in this, and I see you've done NLP and a couple of other courses as well. Branding isn't. I think when we look at branding, it's about how people perceive you, how you perceive yourself, and there's a lot of psychology that goes into that. And I think quite a lot of people are scared to actually look into themselves. And I think you touched on in the beginning that folks want to do everything because they don't want to miss out on this, or they maybe don't think they're good enough to be on this. Does this, so if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, well, this is all great, but I don't know what I'm good at, would this process perhaps help shape their thinking and say, look, there are a lot of people who can do a lot of things, but this is an area that you need to go into, and it's going to be it's a decision. If it's easy, then everyone can do it. But this process is going to sharpen, is going to give you a bit of a guide to what you should be doing for the next couple of years.
Yes. So lost souls do really well with the playbook. People who are dialed in do really well with the playbook as well. So because you're not, again, having to be like, this is exactly what I want to do. You just talk to it and it asks you the questions from the different directions of your life. And so then it pulls together what your genius actually is. And once again, people read it, like I haven't had someone read it and be like, that's not what I should be doing. Everyone reads it and is like, oh, that is exactly what I should be doing. And a lot of people have kind of a difficulty with the niche of genius terminology because they're like, well, I'm not a genius. And it's like, well, you don't have to be the smartest person in the industry. What it's doing is pulling the parts of you that make you amazing at this thing for this kind of client. So that's what the genius is. You're the genius for that kind of client who actually needs what you're doing. And once they wrap their head around that and they start to internalize and have that knowing, and we have this extended niche of genius statement that they go back to and read when they start getting off course, then they start to be like, no, of course, I'm amazing at this. And you don't have to be going out there and being braggy about it. But when you actually claim your spot in the marketplace, like put your flagpole and be like, this is what I do. This is who I work with. And then you start getting those clients and you start exponentially getting results for people because you are in your niche of genius. You're doing your very best work with the very best clients that you could be doing. It becomes really easy to get 100% on board with yourself, with your genius, with the kind of work that you have been wanting to do, but you're too afraid to do.
The last question I want to ask on this is, who does this app work best for? So this process. So who is the ideal person who's going to get the best value out of doing this process? Because the point of this podcast is to help entrepreneurs, help people find, do better in branding and marketing and entrepreneurship. So who, if you had to say, is your ideal persona, who is that person? And
so professionals do really well with this, and typically professionals with a decade or more of experience. And they may be just trying to hone in on who they are in the marketplace, or they may be looking to pivot. So either way they're trying to go, it will still package them with, who they are in the marketplace. And you can take your niche of genius into so many different directions. It doesn't tell you, oh, you need to build this business exactly this way, but it tells you what you bring to the marketplace that's unique that you can build something around.
You mentioned professionals. Let's just break down professionals down quickly. Because when I think professionals, I think of my industry. So it's marketing people, branding people. What is a professional in your mind?
Well, we've had everything from exactly what you described to fellow doctors, naturopaths, physicians going through it. We have a lot of tech people going through it as well, because they're going through a massive transition right now, and they can't be a Jack or Jill of all trades anymore. They need to come into it, even as an employee, they need to come in knowing exactly what they bring to the table in the best way possible, so it can frame them as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just want to say it's not just for marketing people, it's for everyone who's, trying to find that niche for themselves. Well, I think for anyone who is a bit stressed out about this AI age that we're in, or would like to pivot, as you mentioned, or just clarify what they should be focusing on in the next 12 months to 24 months, they should definitely check out your app. And talking about the app, where am I going to send people, Angela?
So you go to app.unleashinginfluence.com, and it'll make you set up an account, and then the paywall will come up, and then you're off to the races. And I also am doing a Ignite call with you after the fact. So I will go through the playbook with you, because it gives you options, and I'll tell you what my instinct is for the best options for you. And then you'll also get 14 days of the content machine. So you can get it writing newsletters and articles for you, writing copy for scripts for videos, etc.
Fantastic. Well, I heard a recent statistic that one of the industries that is the most hard hit by AI is the likes of McKinsey, Bain, and these consulting companies, because you don't need 20 fresh MBA graduates doing competitor research anymore. So, so for us old folks, there's great opportunities out there, and use the tools that are out there and services like Angela's to try and get yourself on the right track in this turbulent time that we're in. Angela, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.